Okay, it looks like it's working. So here we go. So I want to go over this. Oh, here it is. The soliloquy right here, where of the Friar Lawrence's soliloquy from Act 2, Scene 3 of Romeo and Juliet. Like I said, this is one of the most important moments in the play, even though it's by this minor character. It kind of reveals a whole lot of truth in the play. And so I want to go through, and what I really want to look at are the amount of opposites that are in this particular passage. And there are a lot, and there are some paradoxes as well, which is another idea that we've talked about. And so I just want to take a few minutes to go over these so that, I don't know, if you were asked to write how the Friar uses literary devices to convey his idea, then you would be able to do that. So let us begin. So I'm going to highlight a few things as I go through. The first one is, so I'm going to start with these 4 lines. So we have the gray-eyed morn smiles on the frowning night, checkering the eastern clouds with streaks of light, and flecked darkness like a drunkard reels from fourth day's path and Titan's fiery wheels. So the Friar is describing morning, but he's not describing it in a typical way. He's actually using contrasts to convey this moment when it's neither too light or too dark outside. It's this perfect moment in the morning. Maybe some of you have seen it when you're on your way to school. Probably not, because I usually see it and I'm here way, way before you guys are even up. So here is morn and here is night. So these are opposites, right? And how we typically talk about these in literature when we talk about opposites is we talk about antithesis. So night is the antithesis of the morning. Almost sounds like they're enemies. They're not, but what it means is they're opposites. So they contrast with one another. Okay. We have streaks. Streaks are lines, right? And then flecked. Flecks are like dark, or flecks are like dots. Okay. And then light and dark are opposites. Okay. And so we have all these kind of contrasts, these antitheses in here. And then we have the word checkering, which is not a direct one, but it is still that whole motif of light and dark that we've talked about. So when it says checkering, it means that the clouds look like a checkerboard where there's darker squares and lighter squares. And so that's what it is. So it's morning. And I also forgot to highlight smiles and frowning, which are also opposites. And so how can the night frown? Well, it can't. But it's a poetic device. We are giving human traits to we're giving human traits to something that typically doesn't have human traits, and so we call that personification. So we are personifying the morning. A morning also cannot have gray eyes. But what it's saying is the morning is smiling because it's morning, and the night is frowning because it's having to go, somewhere else. This is also the moment after Romeo and Juliet have professed their love, and Romeo is about to come and ask the Friar to marry them. So it's this moment of balance. It's nothing has happened in the play to make it all bad. Nothing has happened in the play to make it all good. Right now, the world seems to be in balance. Okay? A couple of other literary devices we have going on is this idea of like a drunkard reels. This is a simile. It's a comparison using like or as. And so basically a drunkard is a drunk person. So it's basically like a drunk. The flecks in the clouds are not organized. They're running around kind of like a drunk person dancing. And so they're not organized. It's just a way to describe the imagery of what the clouds in the morning look like. Okay. And so it's like, the night is a little drunk, kind of like the guys who were just at the party, like Mercutio, as the Titan, right, which is an allusion to Greek mythology, is bringing forth the sun. So the sun is advancing his eye, which means the day is happy and the night is crying. It's been crying. Okay. Dew represents teardrops, and so this is not quite as explicit as the other one. It's more implicit, but it's still the opposite of the idea of the day being happy. Okay. Then we have, I must upfill this osier cage of ours. Osier is like wicker, with baleful weeds and precious juiced flowers. Well, we have upfill, and typically we would say fill up, and we call this an inversion. So the word fill up is inverted. It's the opposite of the way we would usually say it. So we can already see, even in the diction, there is some inversion here, and there's even some inversion further on when we invert sentences. So even in the syntax, there's this idea of the opposites. So then we have baleful weeds, and baleful is a word that means poisonous or destructive. And then precious juiced flowers. And those are opposites. Again, we have tomb and womb here. And this is another idea. The earth that's nature's mother is her tomb. This is a paradox because it's a contradiction. Something that gives birth shouldn't also be the thing that gives it death. But here it works, okay? Just like something that gives birth shouldn't be where you die. So these are paradoxes, and also the sentence is inverted. So we have words in orders that an order we're not accustomed to, which kind of highlights those ideas of opposites again. As we go through here, I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but I do want to point out that he's talking about the morning, and then he starts to talk about the plants that he's picking. Remember, a friar is a botanist or an herbologist, and he is picking these flowers so he can use to make medicines to heal people, because that would be something that a friar would do. That would be one of his responsibilities. And so here, as we go on, we are talking about that these plants can do good, but they can also be bad. So we have not and ought, which are opposites, and vile and good are opposites, and then fair use and abuse. So it's basically saying that nothing is so evil, vile means evil, on earth that cannot be used for good, just like there's nothing so good that can't be abused and used improperly. And then it goes on to talk about virtue, which is morality, and vice, which is immorality, or like moral qualities, good moral qualities, vice is bad moral qualities, and being misapplied and dignified are also used as an opposite context here. So it's saying that virtue, a good quality, can be used for bad. So it's okay to be proud of yourself. If you do great on a test, you should be proud of yourself. But when it comes to being prideful, when that being proud of yourself turns to prideful, then it starts to become a vice, right? And so that's kind of what he's saying. And then he's saying in the seed, there's both poison and medicine. So it can be used for good and for bad. Okay? That if you smell it, it makes you feel better. If you taste it, it kills you. Which is going to be important later on because it is by an herb or a potion that the friar gives Juliet that makes her appear dead, and then also the fact that Romeo goes to the apothecary to get poison and die. And so he's saying there's these two ideas within these plants, just as there are in men, where men can have grace or men can misbehave, like rude. So there's good and bad. And if there is bad in man, then if there's more bad than good, then it will eat up the person, eat up the plant. So it will destroy man. And so what the friar is saying is that you can take something good like love, and it can be bad to where you hide things, you keep secrets, you don't you're so passionate that you behave rashly. And then something good like love becomes bad. But then hate, we can have hate, and it's this terrible idea. We should never hate. But these two families in this play, they hate each other. And it takes something good, like Romeo and Juliet's love for each other, leading to their death, which is bad, to create the good. So at the end of the play, there's this resolution. And the play is really saying this resolution when the families forgive each other. And so from something bad like death comes something really good, like the reconciliation of these families. And that's kind of the main idea. And so this is in almost the middle of the play. The friar has these words, and they're very wise because this is very, very true. And so if we were to boil down the play into its main themes or main ideas, this one would be really important. So that's it. Yes, that I wanted to say. It's probably one of the most important soliloquies in the entire play, and I think it really is beautiful, and it's crafted in such a way that every word is chosen to add up to that moment where it's talking about if we do not control our passions, it can destroy us or the people we care about. And he starts that with talking about the morning and how it's neither completely morning or completely night. It's not completely light or dark. And talking about that atmosphere to then talking about the plants he's picking in relation to that light and dark idea of the morning, and then how those ideas actually talk about or relate to man. And I think it's really magnificent, and it's one of the elements that makes Shakespeare such an important literary figure.